On this episode of Overthinkr, we've got Emily Rios, the president of the MS Society, Ron Haye, co-captain of Team Roadkill, and Devon Bray, co-founder of Loowit Brewing Co. We're talking about MS Fest happening right here at the Brickhouse, and we are live from the Brickhouse on this episode of Overthinkr. Found us. I don't know how, but they found us. This is Overthinkr, and we're live today at the Brickhouse in Vancouver, Washington. The Brickhouse, one of Vancouver's, I think, just the epicenter of Vancouver beer. Kind of what a lot of local breweries here were born out of. Got some special guests today. To my left is Ron Haye, co-captain of Team Roadkill. That's a bike MS team. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And the co-founder with his wife, Terry, of the MS Fest. That's the Brew Fest coming up here that we're going to get to talk a lot about today. But first of all, just say hi, Ron.
Well, hi, Michael. How are you?
Good. Next to him is Devon Bray, co-founder of Loowit Brewing Co. in Vancouver, Washington, making beer here in downtown Vancouver since 2011. Right? 2012, sorry. Say hi, Devon.
Hello.
Besides correcting me, just, other things. And to his left is Emily Rios, the president of the Oregon Southwest Washington MS Society. Hi, Emily.
Hi. So happy to be here. Cheers.
Yeah. I'm excited to get into this conversation. This is a special episode that is, being published a little out of cadence. If you listen to us every other week, you know that this is just not even 1 week from the last time we published an episode. But this is an episode about something that's near and dear to my heart, near and dear to the Vancouver beer community. And, we really wanted to dive into a little bit of the history of Vancouver beer, and of course this festival, which the festival we're talking about is the MS Fest. That'll be right here at the Brickhouse on September 7th from 3 p.m. till like 9 p.m., huh?
Yeah, usually it starts wrapping up around 9 p.m., but it's been known to go a little bit past. It just depends on the crowd. And it actually starts at 2.
Actually starts at 2, okay.
Yeah, so we're doing some fact checking with Michael.
I'm 0 for 2 so far on my numbers.
That's all right.
It's okay.
That's what we're here for.
So MS Fest is coming up. I want to go back to the beginning, not to talk about the first MS Fest yet. We'll get to that, but even before that, how did you, Ron, meet this guy Devon over here?
Well, the way I met Devon was because of the Brew Fest itself. My wife came up with this idea for a fundraising event to have a Brew Fest, and I didn't know what that meant. What do we have to do? It sounds like we need to talk to some of the brewers. And
sounds easy, doesn't it?
Right, yeah. It
just
sounded,
pour beer, people will show up.
It
it's
actually
no big deal.
sounded genius in our minds. It was genius. We find some brewers to donate beer to us. They come out and they pour the beer, but we find a location that has a liquor license that'll let us sell this beer basically in their establishment, and then take all the proceeds and give it to the MS Society. Perfect, right?
Awesome.
Yeah. But we didn't know any brewers, and we really didn't know an establishment that would let us do that. So we had to go out and meet some people.
That's awesome. So which came first, the Bike MS team or the MS Fest?
The Bike MS team came first.
Tell us a little bit about the Bike MS team.
The Bike
Team
MS
Roadkill.
Team Roadkill. The way that started, it was shortly after I was diagnosed. I was diagnosed in 2010, and my wife and my mom were very active with the MS Society. They dove in quite a way, and when I say active, they started to get information about it and what it provides and whatnot. So we did a couple fundraising events. We did the MS Walk And I'll be honest with you, the first walk I did for the MS Society, it was pretty surreal. I was newly diagnosed, and I was just taken by my son Steven. You know, he was walking in front of me with a sign on his back that said that he walks for his dad. And I was just, how is this possible? I was, you know, what world am I in now? And, you know, I noticed there were a lot of people, you know, they appeared to me at the time to be in a lot worse shape than I was in. So I questioned, is this my future? Things like that. And I was really intimidated by the walk at first. Shortly after that, I was approached by a coworker of my wife's about the bike ride. And I was like, bike ride? You know, what's that about? And he goes, yeah, they do a fundraising event, but it's for over a weekend, and it's a bike ride. It's an organized bike ride. And I literally asked him, are you talking about like the people riding around town in spandex and stuff? Because, yeah, that's not me. And he goes, well, you know, I'm just throwing it out there to you. So I looked into it, and I saw, you know, what it was about and all the amenities. And I thought, you know, at the time I was kind of looking for a challenge to see what I could do. And so I went out there and I did this bike ride event, and I was just blown away. It was just the people there. I was surrounded by so many people that were just having a good time. And I felt like for once I was around people that understood what I was going through, and I could talk to people, and I just had a great time. And I also learned that I could ride a bike. You know, I can't ride very fast and I can't ride very strong, but for whatever reason, I could sit on a saddle all day long. And I was so blown away by the event that I wanted to get my friends involved. And that's where the Brewfest originated.
And now, Devon, you've been able to participate in Bike MS.
I have, yeah. I've ridden maybe 4, 5 times at least, yeah.
Do you have any particular memories of those bike events?
First big rides I've done, I guess.
Yeah.
I think I did maybe 46 miles or something on my I think the last time I did Bike MS, and it was good, yeah.
You've done some quite large rides since. You've ridden across most of Europe.
Well,
and
a small portion of it,
small portion. Further than I've ridden on a bicycle, I can assure you. So, Ron, what you talked about, you know, seeing this bike team as a challenge. What sort of challenges do you face? What sort of challenges has MS brought in to your world? That 2010, that's 14 years ago now.
Well, I know it's changed me physically and mentally is what's happened. I knew that I was in for a battle, you know, with the disease, and then with the treatments that they had back then. Basically, it felt like I was injecting the flu into me every weekend with the side effects. So I knew I had to take care of my body and get into better shape. So I was kind of looking for a challenge at the time. And the bike ride, you know, it provided an opportunity for me to do something like that had something to do with endurance, and it opened up a door that I thought was closed. I didn't see myself because I have a foot drop, and my left side isn't coordinated with my right side. Those are lasting effects that I've had from previous flare-ups. But on a bike, I can mask all that. You know, I can overcompensate on the right side with my right side.
Wow.
So,
Emily, I'll ask you, if you would, just for those listening that might not be familiar with MS.
Yeah.
What is it, and what is, I guess, kind of the range of effects that it can have on folks?
Yeah, well, first, I just want to say thank you to Ron for sharing his MS story and experience. It takes a lot of courage to share that, so thank you, Ron. So MS is a neurological disease, and we don't know a lot about it, and that's why the MS Society is here. First and foremost, we don't want anyone to experience MS alone, but we also exist so that we can answer those questions. We are an organization that is doing advocacy work. We are an organization that is fundraising to do research, to answer those big questions of why do people get MS? Why are they experiencing so many different symptoms with MS? And really to find a cure for MS, because that's what we don't have. And people experience a lot of the things that Ron has shared. They can also have much more extreme reactions, and they can also have much more milder symptoms. And so that's what we're really kind of getting down to. And right now we're really focused on pathways to a cure, where we're trying to prevent the disease from taking hold, restoring lost function, and, you know, saying that we don't want this disease to exist any longer. And so that's really what the society is really focused on right now. And of course, making sure that for people that do live with MS, that we're creating really safe spaces and programs to help people that do have the disease currently. So I wish I was a neurologist and that I could go into a really deep detail about all of the many different symptoms and causes, but that is well above my pay grade.
No, you've done well describing it. I think, you know, I wasn't all that familiar with it before I met Ron, and I got to go to that first MS Fest, back then called Brewfest for MS.
Right.
Yes.
But we that might even be where I met Devon for the first time. It's quite possible, because I remember being starstruck by being around these Vancouver breweries that were, you know, still a very new thing at the time and very exciting thing at the time. Ron, you've described the Team Roadkill Bike MS team in a particular way to me before. You remember what that is?
I'm not sure. I've used a lot of different descriptions for that group. But
Are they a
just-
cycling team?
they're well, that depends on which part of the group you're talking to. They're more of a beer drinking team that has a cycling problem.
There it is.
You know, that's I think that was the catch that you're looking for. We early on with our fundraising efforts, we realized that alcohol was a great motivator for fundraising. It got people out, and it's worked. It really has. We've been very fortunate.
So that first year of MS Fest, we're taking folks back now to 2013, right?
Right.
This will be the 11th MS Fest.
Right.
Right. Going back to 2013, that first MS Fest happened in this room. And Devon, I'll ask you, what do you remember about that first MS Fest?
Well, I think there was maybe 4 breweries.
Right.
A whopping 4 breweries.
Yeah, it was Loowit, Tabor, Heathen, and Ghost Runners.
West Highland.
Oh, West Highland.
West
Yeah,
Highland.
okay,
West
okay.
Highland Brewing,
And
which is no longer.
I think all 4 of us were just crammed onto a little stage.
Yep.
And
Yeah, they were located right over there where those booths are. We had, you know, their jockey boxes, and we had, I think, 2 6-foot tables set up, and
I remember just walking in front of the stage. The stage has moved here in this room since then, but the stage used to be on the adjacent wall here.
Right.
And that's where we had there were jockey boxes lined up there. I remember going down the line and meeting Sam from West Highland, meeting Devon and Tom from Loowit, meeting Eric from Mount Tabor.
right.
Which sad rest in peace, moment of silence for
Mount Tabor.
Mount
Yeah.
Tabor that just closed here last week. That was
Sonny.
Heartbreaking news. Sonny from Heathen was
Right,
there
yeah.
as well. And probably Rodney from Heathen. I think was he there?
I think so.
I have a
'cause
memory of
set up.
Rodney in this
Yeah.
room, so I
And
think
Heathen
it's from that.
Heathen always has a presence when they're there. You know, they brought a big gong. I remember that, and
They had
it
the
was-
gong going that far
they-
back.
Yeah,
huh?
they had the gong back then, and it was just it was awesome. Of course, when that happened that first year, we didn't know anything. We didn't know anything about the Brewers. We didn't know anything. And to think about it now, to think that, yeah, we had Heathen, Mount Tabor, and Loowit Brewing and West Highland, and not only were they so gracious to represent for us and to be part of it, but they were actually out here participating and helping. You know,
Yeah.
that was part of our ask. You know, is that, you know, we're asking for the donation of beer, and we're asking for your time to help, you know, pour the beer. And we were doing things that we didn't know we weren't supposed to be doing, that we've learned since then. But it was.
So the whole fest is above board now.
Oh man, yes, we've definitely crossed a lot of T's and dotted I's, but the gratitude that we have for, you know, the Brickhouse alone. I mean, obviously it starts here, but the gratitude toward all those brewers, because what they brought, whether they knew it or not, was they brought credibility. Because I know Devon personally has talked to a couple of brewers as we've grown each year, where they've talked to him about what's this all about, and he's told them, and it's helped them become participants.
So fast forward to last year, how many breweries participated last year? Do you recall?
I'm getting a message from my wife. I believe it was 20. That's counting a cider. So yeah, it was getting to the point where it's literally gotten to the point where it's hard to keep up, which is a problem, but it's a good problem, because early on, you know, we knew who was here. We knew the people, or we had just met them at least. And then by last year, I'm looking around and I don't know 80% of the people in the building. You know, it's pretty
great.
cool.
That's awesome. Has the event always been, it obviously started with 4 Southwest Washington breweries, Vancouver breweries. Really at that time, I think that's the 4 that existed. I think Ghost Runners may have also been getting going right around the same time. But,
Right.
you know, that to think back that 11 years ago, that was the Vancouver
That
beer
was
scene.
the brew scene.
That was totally the brew scene, and I can remember sitting in one of the booths when I first pitched the idea to Steve, the owner of the Brickhouse, about our idea, and you know, again, I didn't know what I was really asking, and I threw this idea out to him, and he did ask me, you know, well, who's it for? And I said, well, it's for the MS Society, and he goes, yeah, but who's it for? Who? Why are you championing this? And I said, well, I guess it's not for me, but it's for people with MS, and my wife and I are spearheading it. And he just, and Steve, if you don't know Steve, you really should meet him. Steve's a dude. He is just a cool customer.
Oh, yeah.
And he just leans back and he's like, awesome, I like it. And he gives me a list of 3 brewers right off the bat. These are the 3 guys that you need to talk to. You need to go talk to these guys. You know, and if they have any questions, they can contact me, but these are your 3 guys. And it was Mount Tabor, Heathen, and Loowit. And then the 4th one we pulled out of a book because of the name, West Highland. It was, my wife has a very strong Irish heritage, and I know it's a Scottish name, but that was the closest thing we could find to Ireland. So we went with it.
There you go. So, is the fest still just Washington breweries, Southwest Washington breweries, or is it?
Yes, we've tried to keep it as local as we can. Mount Tabor, I know, is out of Oregon, you know, but Eric had his.
Oh yeah, they started
We're
here.
here.
You know,
And he
they
was
moved back
actually-
and forth across the river a little bit.
And we've always given Mount Tabor first billing because they were the first ones to respond to Terry's email. So they always went, like when we had the glasses and we had the list of brewers, Mount Tabor would always be first. We do have North Jetty has been involved on and off whenever they can. They're out of Ilwaco.
Yeah.
But
Seaview, actually.
Seaview, excuse me.
Seaview
Now
out there.
look who's correcting
On
people.
Long
There you
Beach Peninsula.
But Eric's from the area, and
Yes. Yep.
he's close friends with a lot of us, so he's considered local.
Oh yeah. North Jetty is definitely local beer.
Yeah.
For Southwest Washington, absolutely. So going back to that, Devon, Devon won't take this kind of credit. He's going to shrug this off or turn red or something. But I'll say that like Devon is really I don't want to say the Godfather because that's just like too over the top probably. But like definitely like the William Wallace of leading the charge. I think, and this is just from where I sit. For Vancouver beer and Southwest Washington beer, which again in 2000 we're talking about 2013, Loowit having opened up in 2012, Heathen and Ghost Runners right around that same time. I think around that time we had a Salmon Creek brew pub was hanging on. Maybe not.
It's probably the end of Salmon Creek.
It was kind of the end of Salmon
Just
Creek brew pub.
leading into Old Ivy, yeah.
There had been a Hazeldale brew pub before that was gone by then.
Yeah.
There was a Bell Tower Brewing Company in East Vancouver that had a short lifespan in about 05 to 08, something like that. But overall, it was an interesting time where, beer was exploding in Portland. There was definitely this whole like craft beer revolution was happening, and it was happening in Portland. It was happening in Seattle, and I don't want to say those things started happening around 2008 to 2010. And if you wanted to get craft beer during those years, you had to cross the river from Vancouver until some people like Devon took some big risks to open up in a downtown Vancouver that is not the downtown Vancouver we see today. It was a very different downtown Vancouver,
Right.
and to pop into a place with a roll-up door and put some brewing equipment in there and just start cranking out some great beer in downtown Vancouver, that was a risky thing to do. My question is, maybe we can get into this. Like, why was Vancouver behind the curve on that? Why was Vancouver later to the party in beer things? Do you have theories, ideas?
I'm not exactly sure. I think there was a point in time where a lot of us were content just driving into Portland to go to the brew pubs. I mean, it was like a regular thing for me and my friends. We would go get dinner at Laurelwood and have beers, and always thought, like, why can't we just have this on our side of the river closer to home? And that was one of the catalysts.
Absolutely a catalyst that got things started. And I know, I've had a business in downtown Vancouver for a while too, so I hear Loowit's name get brought up at a lot of different meetings, and Heathen's name, because they weren't too long after that Heathen opened their Farrell Public House downtown, and a lot of those downtown association meetings that happened, Loowit and Heathen were talked about a lot, given a lot of credit for bringing families back out into downtown Vancouver, because it was rough. I don't like to talk bad about my town, but from 2008 to 2012, it was downtown Vancouver was a rough vibe.
There wasn't a lot, especially beer wise. I mean, By the Bottle was the place to go back then.
Yep,
That was it.
Dave and Arlene by the bottle. Shout out to them. They also had Old Ivy Tap Room and brewery there for a while.
Arlene was the one that gave us the book. It was like the holy Bible of all the local brewers that we found West Highland Brewing.
Okay.
So,
That's how you found out about it. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, yeah. So, again, just going back to that time and how things started to go, I've heard some stories about that. Now, I moved to Vancouver in 2007. And shortly thereafter was when, it started getting into craft beer. I'm in the Portland area and beer's exciting. And I was crossing the bridge a lot to go explore different breweries and stuff. And I attended here about 6-7 years ago. I attended something at the Kiggins Theater put on by the Clark County Historical Museum, and they talked about Lucky Lager being in downtown Vancouver and uprooting themselves from downtown Vancouver quickly, and so drastically, leaving behind a lot of equipment and a lot of mess. You still every once in a while I run into an old tavern rat at a bar who says, "Oh, I've got some kegs from Lucky Lager. Maybe I stole this book of recipes from their." I've run into these older guys that are telling me these stories of what they did as teenagers in the '80s in downtown Vancouver to basically ransack what was left of this huge brewery. I mean, this is back when breweries, you were either a regional huge player or you weren't. The small craft brewery didn't exist, right? So the fact that they abandoned all of that in this town so quickly, in 1986, a law was passed that brew pubs were illegal in the city limits of Vancouver. And that continued until I believe it was 2003 is when Steve Bader of Bader Beer and Wine Supply and actually Pyramid Brewing. They were brewing out of Kalama at the time. They wanted to come to Vancouver, but in order to do so, they needed the law changed. So they sued the city and won, but then Pyramid Brewing was bought and never opened a brew pub on the waterfront as they intended. So there's a little bit there of what I think maybe set back Vancouver's trajectory of beer in a certain sense is that we can look to Portland and see that, things like Bridgetown and Widmer and all these things happened in 87, 88, 89. The wheels were turning in the early 90s, and our wheels were completely stopped in Vancouver. What I think is exciting today is that I think pound for pound we could flip that on its head, and it's pretty exciting to see a lot of people in Portland are crossing the bridge because there's a lot of cool stuff to enjoy of Vancouver beer.
Oh, absolutely.
Completely different. In fact, a lot of friends, I've been friends with Ron's son, Steven, for a long time, and we used to cross the bridge a lot to go find beer. We don't anymore. It's much, much more seldom because there's so much great stuff on this side of the river, which is an awesome thing that I think the MS Fest also celebrates.
Oh, absolutely. And again, I said it earlier, I can't say it enough. We're so fortunate to be able to have these breweries be part of what we're doing. I mean, so incredibly fortunate. And I am biased. I mean, I feel like our beer in our community is the best. It's great beer. It really is.
It really is, and I mean you can make that claim, but you don't even really have to because the proof is in the pudding.
Right. Prove me different, right?
And the proof is in the pudding in that the last 2, maybe even 3 years of Washington Beer Awards, as far as the state of Washington's broke into 5 regions by the Washington Brewers Guild, and our region of Southwest Washington, pound for pound, brings home the most hardware, the most medals.
Yeah.
Now 3 years in a row, which is very exciting to me. I've asked this question on a podcast before, but you know, a lot of people talk about Bellingham as a destination for beer.
Really? Oh.
You know, you go to Bellingham, they have a lot of great breweries. You know, it's like it's Washington's Bend. People go to Bend because there's a lot of great breweries in Bend, right? And I would say if geographically Vancouver's breweries could switch places with Bellingham, even better than what Bellingham is
get
right
the
now.
Canadians
Sorry,
would come
Bellingham.
storming down.
Yeah.
We went to Ireland a couple years ago, and
I didn't think Canadians were that aggressive.
they might be with that beer scene. But my friend brought a 6-pack of Loowit Shadow Shinobi, and he was handing it out to some of the bartenders there in Ireland, and they were just blown away because they don't. I mean, they've got Guinness obviously and some of the other staples, but they were very impressed. And I teased him about, I go, you might as well brought snakes, you know, to Ireland. You know, this is, you are blowing minds with this Northwest IPAs.
That's awesome. Yeah. And we live in such a great region for beer. Like, part of what has finally happened, and even though, you know, we kind of covered why it took some time for it to happen, but finally it happened, and this beer community is just absolutely going crazy right now. A lot of it is the access to ingredients that we have. You know, Great Western Malt is one of the world's largest suppliers of brewing malt, other malts as well, but the malt we brew with is really by and large made and processed here in Vancouver.
It's literally a
Washington.
mile and a half down the road.
It's a mile and a half from Loowit.
That's
it's
pretty convenient.
Yeah, it's right here, really close to where we're sitting right now. And then
All that locally sourced.
Right?
Yes.
it's very locally sourced. And right now we're in the middle of fresh hop season, where again we have a very distinct advantage over the rest of the world and even the rest of the U.S. In that we can drive about 50 minutes down I-5 on a Tuesday morning and pick up hops that have literally just been cut down from the vines,
That's awesome.
return to our breweries, and within an hour of the hops still growing, still being on the vine, within an hour those hops are in a tank or in a hot side brew kettle. Like it's that accessible.
I picked up fresh Centennial hops this morning from Goshi Farms in Silverton.
There you go.
Yep.
And that's Goshi Farms celebrating 120 years.
Yep.
Of making hops, which is crazy to think about. That, you know, a hop farm has existed for 120 years. Hops are only used for one thing. They exist for beer. So when you talk about a farm that's been doing that for 120 years, you're like, wow, okay, they've seen some things. That farm's gone through some different eras of beer.
Right? So between the hops and the grapes, the Northwest is definitely taking care of some of our vices, right?
It absolutely.
No pun intended there.
Right. We've got beer and wine on lock in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
So coming up this September 7th, pulling it back up here, September 7th, here at the Brickhouse, the MS Fest, what breweries can we look forward to seeing? Who do you know that, I know we're a little early, but so maybe not all the commitments have come through yet.
No, we haven't.
Tell me what you know.
We haven't got a complete list, but I know Mount Tabor is still going to represent.
Very cool.
That's very cool. Loowit, of course, and Vice Brewing. Now that on Fort Side, Ghost Runners, you know.
Awesome.
Yeah, there's Double Barrel Mountain, excuse me. I always do that.
You know, you're not alone.
Okay,
You're not
good.
alone.
Okay, good.
The words double
I need a support
and
group
mountain
for
and
that.
barrel
Yeah.
are interchangeable almost
It's one of those
sometimes.
things. I'm going to say the wrong thing.
Double Mountain, Double Barrel Tap Room, Barrel Mountain Brewing,
Right.
but they're all very different things.
Right, they very much are. To piggyback though on something I was thinking about when you were talking about earlier about the brewers, one of the things I noticed in some of the earlier brew fests was I would think from the outside that it would be a competitive field with all the different breweries, doing the same thing. But the thing that I noticed was they were helping each other. They were if someone had a problem with the jockey box, or the other brewer would help them, either loan them a jockey box or give them the lines they needed, and I started hearing stories about how they would go to each other's breweries to help them out on certain things, and just to know that there's that camaraderie amongst a lot of them, it's pretty cool.
Absolutely, and that is just as true today. There's emails and things all the time of, I'm missing this part to this thing.
Yeah.
Where do I get it? Or who do you use for this type of gas? Or who's your vendor for this type of service? And those exchanges are happening all the time across Vancouver beer, and it is exciting to see. I think the beer scene is a lot like the music scene, more so than most industries, where industries become very competitive and very cutthroat.
Right.
The beer scene is much more like, if one of us is succeeding, or gaining a lot of notoriety, it's not unusual to bring someone along with you. Just like bands do, where they're going to bring an opener and a headliner,
Right. You get that
on their
promotion
tour
out.
to
Well, it's definitely an art.
promote them.
The craft itself is obviously it's an art, and for them to share it with each other and anybody and everybody, it's pretty telling of them, of all the brewers. And again, we're so fortunate to be able to do things with them.
So, Emily, I heard you've got some statistics.
I do.
I'm excited to hear about these statistics. The bike MS, the Team Roadkill. How long has that existed? How long before the MS Fest did that exist?
I want to say we started off maybe 2 years before the first Brew
Okay.
Fest.
Yeah.
And
So you're right around 13 years.
Right. And the original team for the first ride that I did, we had 3 riders that day that rode. And again, I was just so blown away by the event. I wanted to get more people involved, and I'm very fortunate that I have a good group of friends. That it was an easy sales pitch. I would tell them, look, you come out, you ride your bike. It doesn't matter how far you ride it, but they've got a beer garden. And I'd talk about a couple other things, and then I'd say a beer garden, and I'd say other things, and then I'd say a beer garden. And it didn't take them long to convince them that it was something that they wanted to check out. And once they did, what happened was they started inviting their friends out, and it's kind of like the Brewfest. All of a sudden, third, fourth year of Team Roadkill, I'm looking around and I'm introducing myself to people I'd never met before.
That's fantastic. So in that 13 years, Emily, what have they been able to accomplish in 13 years?
Yes. So, and I should just say that Bike MS Oregon is actually celebrating our 40th anniversary. So
Awesome.
It's a big deal for Bike MS Oregon, turning the big 4-0. And
is
in
very
that
cool.
time, actually, overall, the ride has raised $19 million, which I think is a pretty impressive stat.
Yes.
And I will also, we can definitely celebrate that. And I will also say that Team Roadkill is the most fun team at Bike MS. That is the team tent that you want to go and hang out in. They always have the best dressed tent. They have the best themes. And I think we need to do a little drum roll, because in this time, that's right, thank you for the drum roll. Team Roadkill has raised $493,341.
Wow.
So this year, TRK or Team Roadkill will definitely raise $500,000 for
Incredible.
Bike MS, which is incredible.
That is very cool.
So it is so exciting that really both Terry and Ron will be inducted into the National MS Society's Circle of Distinction next year, which is such a big honor.
That is incredible.
They have done such incredible work for the work of the MS Society.
That's
And
incredible.
just another really interesting thing to share. Here in Oregon, fun fact, our investment overall in innovative research is over $1 billion. But right here at home at OHSU, we are funding 4 fantastic researchers at OHSU for over $3 million through 2027. So those 4 researchers are really helping us to find a cure for MS. So just to kind of bring it all home of what the MS Society is doing to find a cure and what that looks like locally. So
That's
just a lot of
that's
stats. I know
incredible.
I threw a bunch of
is.
numbers out there, but kind of what we're doing to find a cure for MS and really what Team Roadkill has done is quite impressive. So
It really is. And if I can jump in there real quick. So Team Roadkill, the way I look, Terry and I, we get a lot of credit for doing things with Team Roadkill, but really we're very fortunate of the members that are on Team Roadkill. They're the backbone. They're the ones that provide the fun and bring the excitement to the event. And along the way, we've had other teams merge with our team and to make it even bigger. We haven't done this by ourselves by any means. There's too long of a list for me to name the people that have helped. There's a couple of them sitting right there in the booth right there, Mark and Tamara Teeter, who their team joined our team. And it's been things like that. And because the MS bike ride, it also is like the beer scene, and you were talking about the music scene. It's its own little community, and we're all kind of helping each other out and having fun together. It's a friendly competition as well. I don't know if that goes on with the breweries as well. It's always it's just a good time.
well, every dollar makes a difference, right? It's time, it's talent, it's treasure, it's volunteers that come out to help, it's
Absolutely.
people that donate their time, their beer, their the people that come out and help set up. It's all those things combined that make the difference.
Right, and if you can make a difference by riding a bike and drinking beer, why wouldn't you, right?
Yeah,
If that's all you got to do.
absolutely.
That's great.
It's-
You can also
You don't
Yeah,
have
you
to
don't even
ride a
have to
bike.
really ride the bike,
you don't even really have to ride the bike. Okay.
but you really should drink the beer. It's delicious.
I think it's
That part I can
even
do.
community. I think what it actually distills down into, if you just kind of take it layer by layer, it's really community. Because I think really what I've been hearing throughout this conversation is community.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
It's the Vancouver beer community. It's what the community has been able to do to create this MS Fest. And what that MS Fest event has done is create real change for people within our MS community. And what that has translated into is how we're actually going to find a cure for
Right.
this disease that affects people like Ron. And Ron is one of 1 million people, right, nationwide. So,
Yeah.
and that's the difference we're making.
Yeah, I can't even begin to tell you how many times I've been approached by people that have participated in the ride, and they're thanking me. And I'm like, why are you thanking me? And they'll say, like, I didn't know this, but my roommate's mom had MS, and back then they didn't have the proper treatment. Or there's so many stories like that because you never know who's been affected by the disease. And we've also learned that, I'm a believer, at least with the autoimmune diseases, that it's going to be a domino. That when we find the cure for MS, we're going to also find a cure for a lot of other autoimmune diseases.
That's
And
very
because
true.
it's an old cliche, but it's one I live by. Kind of, you don't really get it till you get it, and when you get it, you realize there's cause all around us. And again, if you can do something as simple as getting your friends and family together to have a good time and help make a difference, you're missing out if you don't.
Absolutely. How can someone get involved with the MS Fest? How can they contact you? Or if they wanted to, let's just say for volunteers, people want to sign up to pour some beer or help with cleanup or set up or tear down?
Yeah, we're open arms to anybody that wants to be a volunteer or participate in any way. We strongly encourage it. They can either get a hold of me and my wife and I. We'll have to give you some kind of contact information for that. Steve and Angela at the Brickhouse, who I can't say enough good things about Steve and Angela. They're out of town right now, or they would be here. But without those two, it wouldn't be going. We wouldn't have made it past the first year.
It's been exciting to see the festival grow in this space, and this space itself is growing. They in the last few years built out this brand new patio. I call it brand new, but gosh, it's probably 4 or 5 years old now.
Right,
but
right.
it still is like new to me versus the time I've spent here. So many years coming here. It still feels new out there, but so much space out there. Now they've taken the space next to them, and there's a huge pool room with pinball machines over there. Pinball machines, something we don't have enough time to talk to Devon about today.
Right.
That's pinball. Big pinball guy.
They have the Dublin room
and
now.
then the Dublin room is over there now too. So a brand new room over there, and that's actually where this year's festival is going to set up the jockey boxes and the booths. You'll get your beers in the Dublin room, and then really get to explore this whole space, walk around with your beer, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's going to be really exciting to see that because, like you said, like we were talking earlier, we were just confined pretty much to this main room, and then we expanded outside, and people could come in and out. But now we'll have a lot of room to move around. You can go in, out, kids can be here, things like that, and I get excited thinking about all the things that have happened and things that are going to happen. But the funny thing is, after I think year 2, it's when Angela really got involved, and she pretty much told me and Steve to, you guys go over there at that table and come up with all your ideas and bounce them off each other. Meanwhile, me and Terry are going to run a brew fest. And that's, we've been very fortunate that me and Steve knew our roles, and that was the smart thing.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. No, and shout out to Angela and Terry. Terry's here. Terry, we should get you up here if you're willing. No. Okay. It's all right. It's okay. You can see Terry actually bartending at Vice Beer from time to time. So if you don't know what Terry we're talking about, maybe you've seen her there. No, this is all great, and I would say, for what it's worth, I'd encourage any brewery that you're listening to this, get involved with this. It's a simple thing to do. I know there's a lot of events all summer long. We take our jockey boxes out, and then we got to bring them home and clean them, and then we got to load them all up, and the booths and the whole setup that comes with beer fests and things like that. It can be a lot. It's a lot of work, but I think the most rewarding thing you can do is to put in that effort to come out and be a part of this festival, because you've heard right here just how it raises money, where that money is going locally, the community that it brings together, the people that it supports. The people, even when I'm here at the fest, I know I've met several people who also have the disease, and it's changed the way I think about the disease. There can be some stigmas and things to it that I think were really shed just by attending and really understanding, like, oh, this isn't as scary as I thought, and there's really a cool community around it. So I'd say get involved.
Yeah,
however you can.
definitely.
However you can.
I'm always open to talk to people. You know, a lot of times at the Brew Fest, I'll be approached by someone will introduce me to someone that has just been diagnosed, and of course they're full of questions, like I was when I was first diagnosed, and it's just good to talk to people about it, you know, and try and point them toward the answers they're looking for.
Awesome. Again, the MS Fest is happening right here at Brickhouse on September 7th. Starts at 2 o'clock, and it goes till 9-ish. But, you know, Brickhouse is also open late just because the jockey boxes stop pouring beer. And, you know, it ends up being a little bit of a party, which is a good thing, too.
It's a great thing. Yeah.
It's an awesome thing. Be here for that event. Overthinkr is produced by ZZeppelin and Zach Denton, who does all the editing and everything behind the scenes. We've got Stephen Haye sitting in, helping out today while Sean Burke is out with an illness. But we appreciate the hospitality here of the Brickhouse in downtown Vancouver. Super appreciate being able to sit here and talk about old school Vancouver beer, and of course the MS Fest with Emily Rios, again president of the Oregon MS Society, Devon Bray from Loowit Brewing Company, and Ron Haye, captain of Team Roadkill and co-founder with his wife Terry of the MS Fest that we get to enjoy September 7th. That's it. That was Overthinkr.